Recording.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Kimmy. My name is Sam. I'm going to be your clinician for today. How are you doing?
I'm okay. It's really nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
Yeah, of course. How have you been this week?
I've been okay. I recently moved to New York, which is really exciting. So I've been navigating that. But overall, I've been pretty good. Just there's some things that are definitely impairing my day-to-day life.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've been having some episodes recently where I become violent when I'm not meaning to. For example, if someone touches me, I can sometimes punch them subconsciously without even realizing. And then immediately when I realize what I've done, I feel terrible and apologize. But yeah, so I've been having some violent episodes where I've been lashing out when people touch me. And in addition, I've just been paranoid. Recently, I've been seeing this man from my past hallucinating him being there when he's not. Um, and also just having some flashbacks, some bad dreams. Yeah. So overall, just like some impaired things.
Are these the problems that you're looking to solve today? Like why you've come to seek out some therapy?
Yeah, really value my friends and I love life. I'm a huge optimist and I really value my job and my chance to be alive. And I feel like I'm wasting it. And that things are just really preventing me from living my life to the fullest. And it's also impacting the people around me, my loved ones. The other week I woke up and I had sleptwalked and was sleep strangling my roommate because I thought he was someone else in my dream. Yeah, and so I don't want to isolate my friends, and I want to get better.
Yes. Okay, well, let's jump right into a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Where were you born?
I was born in Durnsville, Indiana. It's a really, really small town.
All right. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Durnsville. My entire childhood until I was 14, I lived in Durnsville. And then when I was 14, I was kidnapped and I lived with my kidnapper until I was 29. So for 15 years.
And this kidnapping, how did that affect you growing up and going through your pubescent years, it sounds like?
Yeah, it was definitely really hard. So I was captured by a man named Richard Wayne, Gary Wayne, on my way to school in the eighth grade. And he took me underground to a bunker where I lived with three other women who he had kidnapped for 15 years. And yeah, it was really hard to grow up during that. The Reverend told us that Earth had ended essentially, and that the apocalypse had happened, that God had sent down like the four horsemen, and that there were no more people alive on Earth except for us. So I lived for 15 years believing my family and friends were dead. And yeah, so growing up in the bunker was really hard. The Reverend was not a good parental figure.
Um, and you say that he raised you for most of your teenage life. Did anyone else raise you as like a child? Did you grow up with like your parents?
Yeah, until I was kidnapped, I lived with a single mom. She was not a great mom. She was kind of flighty, very self-centered. She has bipolar disorder, so she was very focused on herself. And my father, I never knew him. My mom said that I was conceived in a red robin, and then that was the only information I have about my father.
Does that give you an any kind of interesting relationship with the Reverend that you talk about, your kidnapper, because of your lack of father figure in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely gave me a very strong bond with the other women in the bunker, going through that experience. And I acted as sort of a parental figure to a girl named Cindy, who was in the bunker with me. She needed some extra support and guidance, and I kind of acted as a mother figure to her. So I took on kind of a parental role. But yeah, the Reverend definitely, I hate him, and I hated him in the bunker too. But I think, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if I would describe the Reverend as a parental figure as much as a forced religious figure in my life.
Um, were you religious growing up, or do you have any relationship to religion at all?
I wasn't super religious growing up. My mom never really took us to church. But then the Reverend made us go to his version of church all the time. And he read us his version of the Bible all the time. And like his whole philosophy for why he had kidnapped us was to save us because we were sinners, and to save us from the apocalypse that God was sending. So now I have a pretty bad relationship with religion because of all the abuse I was put through in the bunker in the name of God.
Um, did you grow up, or did I take it if you take spent so much time in the bunker, did you have any kind of education past the eighth grade?
No, I have an eighth grade education. And then upon going to New York, I'm trying to get my GED. So I'm currently in a GED class. But yeah, so I had an eighth grade education. I've always been like bright and intelligent, but there were no books to read in the bunker and nothing to grow intellectual like uh, principles. So I'm curious and bright and want to learn more, but I lack a lot of common knowledge that most people learned in high school.
Gotcha. And can you tell me about your living situation now in New York?
Yeah, so I live in an apartment with a roommate named Titus, and he was just a random roommate. I responded to an ad off the street or on the in the newspaper.
Gotcha. That's quite a risk. Do you usually take risks like that?
Um, I'm a very trusting person. So I'm not very like necessarily super like adventurous or anything, but I'm very trusting of people, and I tend to believe the best in people. So I believed the best of my roommate, whoever it was going to be.
Um, and after you were obviously kidnapped so young, have you ever had a job, or have you ever worked before going to New York?
Yeah, I currently work as a nanny. Um, but I don't have any sort of degree, so it's hard to get another job. I think I would be interested in working in like a candy store, perhaps. That's where I was trying to get a job when I ended up getting my nanny job. So yeah, I currently work as a nanny. I get paid under the table, and it's for a very wealthy family.
Um, do you handle your own finances then?
My roommate Titus helps me. So we have a jar in our apartment that I keep all my money in. I don't have a bank account.
So would you say that you have like significant problems handling money? Like, do you spend um a lot?
Um, Not really. I'm a pretty simple person, and it doesn't take much to make me happy. The things that make me happy are people, not material things. So I don't spend exuberant amounts. My roommate Titus does sometimes mishandle our money though.
Gotcha. What is the longest time that you've ever had the job? How long have you been a nanny for?
Um, I've only been a nanny for I think like about 6 months.
Gotcha. And that's the only job that you've had, correct?
Yes, because I was in the bunker, unless you count like chores in the bunker, but it wasn't a paid job by any means.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, so we're gonna move on. You have not served in the armed forces, correct?
No.
No. All right. And now we're going to talk a little bit about your medical history. You may not know all the answers to these questions, and that's perfectly fine. Um, are you aware of any complications during your birth?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Did you walk, crawl, and talk when you were supposed to, like as expected at about 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think so.
Have you ever suffered a head injury or loss of consciousness?
Um, when I was being kidnapped, I was thrown into the back of a van, and I blacked out for some time and woke up in the bunker. But that was like 15 years ago.
Gotcha. Are you currently being treated for any physical illnesses or injuries right now?
No, I'm physically pretty healthy.
And are you taking any medications right now?
No, I'm not taking any.
Have you ever had a seizure?
No, I have not.
And you said you have suffered from a blackout before.
Yes, I can't remember anything from when I was thrown into the van until I woke up in the bunker. And also sometimes my memory, like I suffer like momentary blackouts where like I don't really know what I'm doing. So like for example, if like my boyfriend tries to touch me, I'll punch him or something like that. And I
Um,
don't know what I'm doing. So I suffer like a momentary loss of consciousness.
you mentioned your boyfriend. How long have you guys been together?
Not very long. I met him in my GED class. His name is Dong. And so we have not been together for very long. I think like a month.
Um, and how would you say that your relationship is with Dong?
It's really sweet. He's a really good guy. There's a lot of stress surrounding it though. He's an immigrant from Vietnam, an illegal immigrant. And so there's a lot of fear that he will get deported. And there's also some pressures to get married because he really wants his green card. And I don't feel ready for that. And I don't want to do a fake marriage. So we definitely have some tension, but overall, he's a really sweet guy. And I've had two other boyfriends before. I had one just like brief fling with a guy who works as a tutor for the family that I work for. And that was just pretty non-serious. And then I dated a guy named Logan for a little bit, who is very rich, but kind of arrogant. And so we ended up breaking up because he tried to call immigration services on Dong, and we were friends at the time.
Um, that situation sounds like it causes a lot of stress. How do you deal with stress like that?
Yeah, it does cause a lot of stress. I'm worried about him a lot, but I try to deal with it by enjoying the time we have together. I also really like candy. So sometimes I'll eat candy as a stress reliever. I also just try and think about my blessings and remain optimistic. Every day above ground is a great day. And every day that I'm not in the bunker is a great day. So I try to focus on the positives.
That's really good to hear. That's a really great strategy. Um, why don't we talk a little bit about your current mental health? You mentioned
Okay.
that your mom suffers from bipolar disorder. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, she just gets very manic and will disappear. For example, I actually just recently met my younger half sister, Kimi, but she left Kimi and Kimi's dad, who's her current husband, I guess, and went to Florida to ride all the roller coasters in Florida because she's a super adrenaline junkie when she gets manic. So yeah, she was just not reliable during my childhood. She was dealing with a lot of her own problems. And as a single mom, especially, I definitely was on my own for a lot of things.
Do you see any of your mother in yourself, in your current tendencies?
Um, Honestly, not really. I really try to always keep a positive attitude, but I don't really feel like I'm manic. I feel like I'm dependable, especially for those that I care about. Um, yeah.
And you've kind of talked a lot about your mood, but how would you describe your mood generally?
Yeah, I'm a very optimistic person. I try not to let anything bother me. So generally I'm happy. However, recently, or I guess since getting out of the bunker, my like positive mood has been brought down by fear of and like anxiety surrounding the Reverend. I worry that I have anxiety about him coming and judging me. I sometimes hear his voice in my head, telling me to do things or not do things, or chastising me for making mistakes. And I like worry about seeing him in public and that he might get released one day and that he might do something like this again. I worry about going back to the bunker.
Um, how often are these like fears that you're experiencing?
Well, it depends. Definitely, like I can still go to work and I maintain good relationships with my friends, but it's definitely, weekly probably. I get really, really, I'll have like a paranoid where, for example, I'll see a man on the street. Um, and if he's wearing clothes that look like the Reverend wore, I like feel my heart start to beat really fast and I start to like panic. And then when he turns around, and I realize it's not the Reverend, I'm okay. But something like that happens probably a couple times a week.
Um, and it sounds like these things are triggered by something. Can you identify in particular what that is?
Seeing people that resemble the Reverend, hearing things about the Reverend, seeing anything from my hometown. Part of the reason I moved to New York is Durnsville is a super, super small town, and everyone knew what happened to me and who I was. And I hated it. And I hated being pitied and being seen as this victim. I just wanted to start over. So I moved to New York and changed my name so that no one could find me, and cut off all contacts from Durnsville except for a few, which is hard. And I don't like being reminded of anything from Durnsville, anything, because it all just makes me think of my time in the bunker.
Um, can you elaborate a little bit on what it was like in the bunker?
Yeah. So it was me and three other women. There was two other girls my age, and then one older woman named Donna Maria. And the two other girls my age, one was named Cindy, and I knew her prior to the entering the bunker. And the other one's name was sorry, her name slipped my mind, but she was a religious fanatic and joined the bunker willingly. She believed in the Reverend's message. And yeah, it was a lot of listening to the Reverend preach about crazy things that aren't in the Bible. Um, and then additionally, there was a crank that we had to keep going at all times. So one person would be on crank duty at all times, and having to really muscle this crank. And I later found out that we never knew what it was for while we were in the bunker, but we later found out that it was to keep electricity on for the Reverend in his private man cave that he had with TVs and things. So that was hard. And then, yeah, it was dim. I made really close friends with Cindy, but the other two women, one only spoke Spanish, the older woman, so we never bonded. And the other girl was too far gone, so we didn't have a close relationship. And yeah, it was lonely, sad, dark, abusive.
Um, if this is at all triggering for you and you don't feel comfortable answering, please let me know. You don't have to answer these questions. But were you ever physically abused?
Yes, I was. The Reverend would slap us. Nothing, I guess, super extreme, but I was definitely hit.
Were you ever sexually abused?
Yes.
Are you comfortable explaining?
Yeah. The Reverend asked us or forced us to do sexual things with him and also with the other women in the bunker.
And were you ever emotionally abused?
Yes, I was told that all my family and friends had died in a fire explosion and that God was punishing me for being a woman.
Um, that how do you cope with this history of abuse?
Complete avoidance. That's why I'm coming here today, because it's not working anymore. But I pretend none of it happened. I just want to move on with my life. I hate thinking about the bunker and the Reverend. And that was a dark, horrible chapter of my life. But I feel like I already wasted 15 years on it and I don't want to live in it anymore.
Um, do you ever use substances to cope with any of these things?
Not really. Alcohol tastes bad to me. I've had it a few times with friends, but I've never enjoyed it.
Um, about how old were you?
Uh, 30?
And you do not use this frequently, correct?
No,
All right. And no other substances?
no.
All right. Um, let's talk a little bit more about um, specifically like your anxiety and stress surrounding the bunker and those um, issues you're having. Are you experiencing like any irritability associated?
I get irritable when people ask me about it. I don't like when people know. I've told almost no one in my current life. Almost no one knows what happened. But if I've had to let a few people know for various reasons, and I get very irritable when they ask me about it. I feel like they feel like it's a news story, but it wasn't. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Have you ever been approached by anybody in your new life um, that know about your past life? D-
Um, yeah, so I had to disclose it to my roommate because he wouldn't let me live with him if I had no past address, no past employer, no anything. I had no documentation when I got out of the bunker that I ever existed. And so I had to disclose it to him.
Um, and how did he react to that?
Exactly the way most people do, with intrigue and sympathy, but also curiosity. He wanted to know all about it, wanted to know what we did, wanted to know all the weird, juicy details. Um, but he was also sorry that I had to go through that.
And do any of these things cause you stress, anxiety, or worry?
Yeah, I worry all the time about other people finding out about who I am.
Do you ever have any suicidal ideations, or have you ever like considered it?
Never. I knew from even in the bunker when things were terrible, I maintained hope that one day I would get out.
That's good. Very good. Have you had any sleep problems associated with like getting out of the bunker or since then?
Yeah, I've had some nightmares about the bunker, like really bad ones, and then also the sleepwalking. Sometimes if I'm having a dream about the Reverend, I'll uh lash out at people while I'm asleep.
And did you ever have any sleep problems while you were in the bunker?
Not really.
No.
I got used to it after a while. Obviously, yes, at the beginning, but after 15 years, you kind of get used to it.
How about any like delusions or hallucinations since you've been out?
Um, I would say maybe for hallucinations, like I think I see the reverend sometimes, but I think that's more of fear than actual like hallucination. Because as soon as like the person turns around or I get a better look, I realize that it's not him.
Gotcha. Have you ever had any previous psychological testing, or is this the first time you're seeking out help?
No, this is the first time I'm seeking out help.
Any treatment for mental health ever?
No,
Any psychiatric medications you've taken or are currently taking?
no.
All right. Um, let's talk about how you spend a typical day now that you're in New York. Um, what do you do with your time?
Well, a large chunk of my day is spent nannying. So I'll go to the Voorhees, that's my employer's house, and help her with the kids and anything else she needs, errands. I also am quite close with her. So sometimes she just wants me to talk to her. So I'll do that. And then I spend time with my roommate, Titus, a lot. We're very close. I'm also very close with my landlord, Lillian. And so sometimes we'll hang out, go for a walk, get breakfast or lunch. And then I go to my GED class most days. And at the GED class or after, sometimes I'll hang out with my boyfriend, Dong.
Gotcha. And what kind of things do you do for fun?
I love to walk around Central Park. I like going to Dylan's Candy Store in New York. That's my favorite. Um, I love spending time with my friends. I like roller skating. I like watching movies.
Awesome. Those are all really great things. Have you noticed any deterioration in your personal care, like in your hygiene or anything like that?
No.
How about like, have you ever been like disinterested in any of these activities that you mentioned that you like so much?
Um, Not really. No, am so excited to get to do them.
Impaired ability to interact with others.
Um, Not really, just the like involuntary violence.
The involuntary violence, how does that affect how often does that affect your day-to-day life?
It's not too bad because it's mostly just when people try to touch me. So like acquaintances and other things like that, it's not too bad. It's the worst in my like romantic relationships. If my boyfriend tries to like give me a hug or something, sometimes I'll punch him or smack him.
And this these sudden violent tendencies, are they only after the bunker or were they something that you experienced in the bunker as well?
Definitely in the bunker. I did not want the Reverend to touch me.
Gotcha. Um, have you had difficulty understanding or carrying out instructions?
No.
No? All right. So why don't you tell me about your social life? You mentioned you've got lots of friends and a boyfriend. How's your social life?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a super big circle. I did just move to New York and it can feel very intimidating, but I have a lot of, or not a lot, I have a couple really close friends and I feel very fulfilled by them. I love my landlady, Lillian. She gives me some advice, mentors me. My roommate, Titus, is my best friend and I would do anything for him. Um, I have my boyfriend Dong, who is awesome. I have some friends in my GED class. And I am also friends with my employer, Jacqueline Voorhees.
Gotcha. Um, tell me a little bit about your friendships or romantic relationships?
Yeah, I am a very loving person, so I give a lot in my relationships, but I am hiding the fact that I lived in a bunker for 15 years from most of them. So that definitely hinders intimacy in those relationships sometimes.
How do you think that that is taking a toll on your mental health as a whole?
Yeah, it's definitely stressful to have to hold that in. But at the same time, I feel like people look at me differently when I tell them. And I value being seen as independent and functional and worthy of equal treatment. So I'm willing to hide that aspect of myself.
Um, the worthiness of equal treatment, do you think that that stems from um your time with the Reverend and him shaming you for being a woman?
Yeah, he shamed me for everything. He would constantly tell me that he was going to break my spirit because I was very positive about the fact that one day I would outsmart him and I would get out of there. And every lesson that he taught us, I tried to refute with facts and what I knew. And so, yeah, I was told for so many years that I was stupid and unworthy and unequal and that God hated me. And so, yeah, I don't like people to look at me in sympathy. I just want people to treat me like a normal person.
And did you eventually outsmart him? How did you get out of the bunker?
We eventually got out of the bunker because someone saw us or saw the Reverend going down to the bunker one day and called the police. But I outsmarted him several times. One time I found a rat in the bunker and I showed the Reverend and I said, if all life on earth is gone, then where did this rat come from? And so, yeah, so I did try to outsmart the Reverend, but I was not the one who ultimately saved us.
I gotcha. You mentioned your boyfriend Dong and your roommate Titus. How do you handle like an argument with them?
Um, I tend to just avoid arguments. I don't like disappointing people. I don't like making people upset, and I don't like being upset. So I tend to just run away from the problem or pretend it's not happening.
And why do you think you do that instead of approaching the problems head on?
Um, well, I really value friendship and I really value everyone being happy and content. And so I don't like when people are unhappy, and I feel like conflict breeds unhappiness.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you value a lot of other people's happiness. How do you value your own happiness?
I have problems with that. I tend to put everyone else before myself.
Um, why?
I care very deeply about people, and I would prefer others to be happy other over myself.
Gotcha. Um, well, Kimmy, um, do you have any other questions for me or anything else that you'd like to share?
I don't think I do.
Um, have we covered everything that you'd like to talk about today?
Yeah, I think we have. I would really love to work on a plan for helping with these sleep problems and uh, yeah, punching and involuntary violence problems and how to stop the flashbacks that I'm getting. But I also think, like you said, it might be a good idea to work on strategies for telling people about my experiences in the bunker.
Yes, absolutely. I think you are absolutely correct. I would love to set up a time to work with you further in the future. I will go over this recording of this video and kind of evaluate our conversation in this situation, and I will get back to you with how we can proceed. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. Well, Kimmy, I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too.